Hello, Sarah Sabin here, transformational leadership and business coach. And I am super excited today to be interviewing Glynis Franzman, CEO of Accountagility. So Glynis, over to you. Can you introduce yourself in a few sentences to my listeners, please?
Thank you so much, Sarah, for having me. I'm delighted to be here. I'm Glynis Franzman. I am a first-time CEO of Accountagility. I succeeded my late husband in November 2019 when he sadly passed away. He was an incredible accountant and founded the business. So it's been an incredible 3 years for me. What the business does is we have that legacy still of being a finance automation process automation platform. And what we really try to do is make life easier for our clients. Robert's view, my late husband, was that our software RX should really be there at the disposal of finance professionals to really make their lives easier, to put them in control of their numbers, to make number crunching easier, to save them time, to save them money, put them in a really good position to make business decisions, and to address the errors that often occur in large amounts of data in spreadsheets. So that's what Accountagility does. My role as a first-time CEO, not being the founder, has been, as I said to you at the beginning, it was an incredible journey. It still is. High highs, low lows, personal and professional. And but I can't say it's all bad. It has been some of my darkest days, but also some of my brightest days when I think about the legacy and when I think about the future. And I think about what was built, before I came on board. And so, it's just been, a journey and a wild ride, I guess.
Yeah.
If I may say it that way.
You absolutely may. And I want to thank you for sharing so openly and vulnerably, because it's hard enough being a first-time CEO. There's an extra poignancy and layer to it when you're also dealing with grief as well. So, the high highs and the low lows, you've got through them. I first connected with Glynis, I think it was in 2019. So I'm excited to hear more about where you are today. So
yeah, and it was great to talk to you then, Sarah, and to meet you then, because actually it was an impactful conversation even back then. And so many questions I was being asked that I didn't even know how to begin to answer. But, and I know we'll probably get onto some of these things later on in this conversation. But yeah, things have moved on a lot, and but you're always learning, aren't you? Always learning in the role as a business owner.
Yes. Well, my philosophy is everyone is always learning in life all the time. But I think as an entrepreneur, there's an extra layer of learning in the journey as well. So, okay. So I'd love to know, how have your problems changed in your business now that you've reached a certain point? So you're around the 1 million mark, and I'd love to know more about what's the most pressing thing on your mind at the moment.
Yeah. I think I'll start off sort of with the sort of concept that whenever I've sat down and I've worried about something, I've had to really change the way I look at it. And I've had to say to myself, and this is nothing new, I think business owners, in my experience, do it all the time. It's looking at a feeling that you have. You start from your feeling and how is it making you feel? And that's probably a risk, and it's probably a problem. And then what I do is I turn it around and I say, you know, this is a challenge, you know, so I've start off with saying, you know, it's been addressing just challenges. And I've tried, and it's not always been easy to reframe a problem as a challenge, not because sometimes it's very easy to go to the problem mindset, but actually when I see it as a challenge and I actually look deep inside, the answers often come. I think for me, the challenges that we now have are, given the last 3 years of COVID, and you know, preserving the company, preserving everything that is good about Accountagility. You know, a great team, a great invested team. You know, a product that is really was built around our clients and solving the problems of clients, because I know that that is what Rob, you know, envisaged, and that was always his vision. So for me, it's very much the next phase is now about stability and growth. So we've been through this kind of 2 to 3 years of preservation, building, a lot of learning for myself, but also learning to you know, to navigate this sort of COVID storm. And so it's really about executing now the growth strategy, defining it. You know, it's about finding growth funding. Those are the challenges ahead for us. It's about, you know, thinking holistically as well. So, you know, it's easy to go in and change one part of the company that you think you can improve, but actually what's going to be the impact on another part of the company. So, you know, and it's just kind of thinking holistically, and it's a learning journey. You know, it's been, I've been doing it for 3 years, and I don't know how the time has gone so quickly, but I learn every day. And the challenges can be, they can be daily, and then sometimes there's nothing, no challenge, but and you're sort of, you know, floating. But yes, that's how I envisage things.
No, thank you for sharing that. And it's interesting that you have reframed in your head constantly what a problem is, because a problem isn't a problem necessarily unless you make it into one. If you think of it as a challenge, you're far more likely to approach it optimistically and creatively, rather than from that fear mindset. And you know, it's interesting as well that you acknowledge the different phases of your business. So now that you've done those few years of stabilization, the next stage is growth. And the important point at that stage is to have all of the foundations in place to grow more smoothly, and to also expect that going forward, there will be easier times as well. Because I think that a lot of entrepreneurs, because they're so used to dealing with challenges, when it's a bit quieter, they can be like, ooh, everything's a bit quiet. What's coming down the road?
Yeah, it's a bit like having a baby when they're sleeping, isn't it? And you sort of, oh, it's been quiet for a long time. I need to go and wake them up to see are they still breathing. Yeah, so yeah, absolutely. And you know, I think for me as well now, it's very much I like to turn problems into questions as well. So and questions that I pose to myself, and so it's very much like answering questions. You know, what do I want? You know, what do I want? And that's kind of more poignant for me because of it's a double layer, because I think, what did Rob want, and what is his vision, and can I get into his head? And he was very much the startup phase of Accountagility, and then COVID, and you know, and now it's kind of looking at the future. And I'm not sure I could have done the bit that he did. You know, he that was a skill set that he brought, and I think with my background, there are parts of the growth journey that actually sit quite comfortably with me. You know, and just in terms of my background as an educational psychologist, as a chartered psychologist, and with my background in education, it's been easier for me to bring that learning mindset and that letting go kind of mindset, you know. But yeah, and I think the big thing is, and once is refining and getting clarity about actually what do I want and what does the team want, you know, what as well as what do our clients want, and then not getting distracted from that.
Yeah.
You know, because there are a lot of distractions when you're going through a change.
Yeah, and you know, one of the big things for you, as you say, is actually learning to read what is my vision as opposed to what would Rob have wanted for the business, because
Absolutely.
you know it can so easily get intertwined, and that leads you down a road of, you know, doing something for the sake of someone else rather than following your own path there.
Yeah.
So you're at this growth phase. How do you envision your company growing and evolving in the future? What would you like that to look like?
Yeah, and it's sure your questions are always so excellent, because you know, I think self-awareness has been such a big thing that I've kept on having to come back to. You know, because lots of conversations take you in different directions, and I think, and it's important to have those conversations because you need that sort of contrast and the diversity of ideas, you know, in the team, as well as with external advisors and, you know, people in the network. But I think for me, the growth strategy is, you know, comparing that journey about organic growth versus, you know, an investment journey. Preparing for that journey. So really, we're just knuckling down and drilling down on our growth strategy now, and defining actually what that growth journey is going to look like. So it really is going to be about executing that plan, which probably is going to evolve anyway, but still having a clear plan that is clearly communicated with my management team, and actually we're co-creating it. And I think for me, next step is, and a couple of conversations, exciting conversations are already happening. But for me, it really is about finding, in my notes here, I wanted to find an angel investor, or an angel or an investor. But I think I reframed them to say, find the angel or investor. And do you see the difference that I'm, you know, for me, that can align almost on a chemical level with my vision, and with the legacy, and with me on a personal level as well. So I really am looking for a conversation, you know, and there are some good conversations on the go. And again, you know, I'm very good at creating options for myself, and then I need to clarify and narrow it down. But I'm not alone, and I have a very supportive team, and they have wishes and dreams, you know, for the company as well. So it's a very positive, and there's a lot to be grateful for, and a lot to work with. You know, though the future may sometimes be uncertain, and we're learning all the time, you know, as I say. So yeah, I think, as I said, finding the right angel or investor and advisors, executing the growth plan, and then preserving everything that I believe is excellent about Accountagility. That has been a legacy, I think, not just to do, you know, to serve our clients and to serve the team, but to do that really well, to the best of what we can do. Sometimes I do reflect on my approach, and you sort of question yourself, and you think, you know, am I expecting things to be perfect? And then I have to reframe that again and sort of say, well, there's a difference between having high standards and working at it with a level of integrity and perfection. So we're always striving towards, and that's my vision, and I believe that was Robert's vision as well, is that the how will fall into place if the vision is clear, and I know what the vision is based on, what the pillars are of Accountagility.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that, because the vision remains constant, but the path to get there may pivot, may evolve, and that's normal in a fast-moving business world. This is no longer the world of, right, this is the strategy for the next 5 years and we will not deviate from it in any way at all. A certain amount of flexibility needs to be brought to strategy as well, to determine if it's working, to determine if certain parts need to be leveraged or changed or whatever it is. So yeah, 100%. That's a really good point, as is the point around excellence. You can aspire to excellence without getting stuck in perfectionism, which can be.
I love the way you just articulated that. It so resonates with me.
Yeah. It can be a hard balance, but
yeah, absolutely.
So can you tell me a little bit more? How have you invested in yourself and as a leader, and what steps do you take regularly to grow and learn in your role?
I think it probably wasn't a planned journey, but I think I've been fortunate in the sense of the journey that I have taken. Before I came CEO and owner of Accountagility, I had a career in education and psychology, and that involved a lot of self-management, self-awareness, really understanding communication, between people, always maybe looking below the surface for what's the true message, what's the authentic message. There's a bit of conflict. That's not about me. That's what is it really about? So really understanding human motivation, human behavior, and just looking, not sort of acting on an impulse, but really sort of looking for what's motivating certain actions and certain behaviors. So that was something that I brought, to this role before. Also, I in my training as a psychologist, so I have a master's in educational psychology, and it's all about empowering and enabling the young learners, and young adults to overcome challenges in their learning. And I think whilst the place that I'm working is different, so corporate versus sort of a government role, a lot of principles still apply, and still apply, and the my degree also covered aspects like organizational psychology, and team learning, team building. So those I've kind of really had to sift through, what are my skills and what do I bring, really reflect on, what do I really bring to this role? What is needed here? Where are my gaps had part of your training as a psychologist, and I also had management roles in education before, so I have managed a team, and also have been involved as a change manager. So there were a lot of skills that from my past and my experience that I could draw on in the last 3 years, on a personal and professional level. And we had in my degree, we had self-awareness and kind of taking almost an audit of your own skills and your own understanding, your own knowledge and learning. We had that drilled into us, you know, and then how you overcome that. So self-study is something that I just naturally do. I wouldn't even say I was aware of it. I appeared to be a good scholar at school, but I really needed experience to you know, to perfect well, perfection, you know, what we think about perfection, but to practice more. I read a lot. I also invested in some coaching, 1 year of coaching with other business groups for the first year that I took over CEO role. And I also had another bit of coaching, which was actually Accountagility was selected for, I think it was about 3 to 6 months of coaching with other business owners, where you looked at what challenges business owners typically face, you know, and it was about growth, it was about metrics, it was about understanding strategy. So, you know, I've just had to put all of that together and get creative, really, you know.
Yeah, so much good stuff there. And just again to reiterate the point, you know, it's a constant growth journey, and all of your life experience is applicable to that. Your previous degree, unbeknownst to you, serves you because it incorporates leadership skills that you need to obviously, you know, motivate your team, engage your team, etc., which is really important. It's a really important piece in growth.
Yeah.
Okay. So Glynis, last question, and I'm going to challenge you to keep it to a couple of sentences. Okay. What would you tell your 20-year-old self as a piece of key advice?
There's a lot I could say, but I'm going to keep it succinct. Sometimes it can be a challenge for me to keep things succinct, but I always know what I want to say. But I thought about this, Sarah, and I think for me it is MIA.
Mm-hmm.
And MIA stands for massive imperfect action.
Love it.
And I think there is, you know, I think that's sometimes you know, our conversation before about, you know, perfection versus, you know, what you're striving towards. And I think sometimes the need for perfection can be a little bit of an imposter on us. And I think sometimes just take action, even though it may not be perfect, because you have lots of chances, and there's always somebody to give you feedback and say, you know, just, you know, think about that again, or think about it in a different way. But I would say, you know, don't procrastinate. As far as possible, take massive imperfect action. Take action when you get to that decision point of, do I do this or don't I do this? That's what I would say, you know. And I often would say, you know, in 10 years' time, if you didn't do that, if you didn't take that decision, do you think you might regret it? And then, yeah, take it anyway.
Love it. That's a great point to end. And Glynis, thank you so much. For anyone listening, I hope you liked this interview today. And if you would be happy to be a part of the Leading in the Modern Way interview series, please do reach out to me. Thank you and goodbye.